This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers Podcast.
Okay, recording is on.
Recording is on?
The mic has to be on for the recording to be on.
That is true. Is it recording? Is it hearing me? I should talk at a normal distance. I'm not going to be down here. I'm going to be up here.
I'm going to move this over here. I may actually do a little bit of slumping over. No, it doesn't make any sense to do it that way.
Slumping is not great.
No.
It's not great for your, the sound of your voice. You sound like a deflated balloon.
Okay, yep. So I've got the recording on. They're recording two different mics
Okay.
on two different channels. So we should be
Awesome.
good to go there.
You want to throw that into Discord?
Now we're going on to Discord.
Because, of course, we have to give it live to the Discord.
I need to change that slightly so that they're both going into the Discord feed.
And then is someone else in here after us? Do we have to end on exact time? Now it's a 10-minute turnover for the next people, so we don't have very long. They will let us know. Hopefully they will arrive a few minutes early.
Test. Give me a test.
Test.
Yep.
Testes. 1, 2, 3. Kind of proud of myself that I have now gotten that into your head.
Pretty sure I had that. All right, so. Okay, live recording. I need to not lean into it like that. Okay.
Hit the add accepted.
At.
In live recording text.
Accepted.
I know at least one person was planning
Starting recording from.
We can get through all of this in an hour. It's fine.
That's fine. Yeah.
It's fine. It was single-sided printer, so.
I have to open it up. Give me a second.
We're only doing the very last section of the prologue.
I didn't quite realize that the intro was going to go as long as it did. I thought we'd have more time in between, so I would have prepped ahead of time if I'd realized that they were going to leave us just a short time between.
This was me going through airport security yesterday, being like, I have time in the line. Oh shit, there's no line. Now all my stuff is everywhere. They had to be like, ma'am, please back up until you figure your shit out.
Okay. We're good to go.
Okay.
All right.
Are we recording?
We are recording.
Okay.
Recording is on in two places, and we are streaming to Discord. So welcome. Hey, Satanus, Tavernus.
Hey. Devin came. Yay.
And live, we've got two people here. So
our incredible live audience. But thank you for showing up.
We really do appreciate that.
So we're not just talking to blank chairs.
Thought that's what it was going to be, but that's okay. It's there's a lot going on. There's 4 panels, I think,
at a time. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And it's not nearly as big as Jordan Con. So it's like, there's plenty of people. And if you hear background noise, that's because one of those panels is going on literally in the same room with a small divider between us. So I think these mics are good enough and directional enough that you shouldn't really hear any of that. But if you do, you know why.
And with that, should we try to get this show on the road?
Yeah. So we have
after?
we have a limited amount of time, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. This is episode 421, and
it is, yeah.
We are finishing the prologue for Winter's Heart, and this is the Rand POV. We saved it up for today.
Yeah, so this is just Rand being like, I'm going to go do a thing. And that's it, but it takes 14 pages. So, we start out in Kyrian.
And I guess I'll read us in.
Do it.
Water first. Hydrate. The great city of Kyrian was a hulking mass inside massive walls, crowding the river Alguenia. The sky was clear and cloudless, but a cold wind blew and the sun shone on the roofs covered with snow, glinted on icicles that showed no sign of melting. The Alguenia was not frozen, but small, jagged ice floes from further upstream spun in the currents, now and then banging against the hulls of ships waiting their turns at the docks. Trade slowed for winter and wars and the dragon reborn, but it never really stopped, not until nations died. Despite the cold, wagons and carts and people flowed along the streets that razored the terraced hills of the city. The city, it was called here.
Capital C, city.
Keep going. In front of the square-towered Sun Palace, a crowd jammed together around the long entry ramp and stared up. Merchants wrapped in fine woolens and nobles in velvets rubbing shoulders with grimy-faced laborers and dirtier refugees. No one cared who stood next to him, and even the cut-purses forgot to follow their trade. Men and women departed, often shaking their heads, but others took their places, sometimes hoisting a child to get a better view of the palace's ruined wing, where workmen were clearing away the rubble of the third story. Throughout the rest of Cairn, craftsmen's hammers and creaking axles filled the air, together with the cries of shopkeepers, the complaints of buyers, the murmurs of merchants. The crowd before the Sun Palace was silent. I'll read one more paragraph because I think it's Rand.
Yes.
Finally. That was the intro. Now we're getting to Rand. A mile from the palace, Rand stood at a window in the grandly named Academy of Cairn, peering through the frosted panes at the stone-paved stable yard below. There had been schools called academies in Arthur Hawkwing's time and before, centers of learning filled with scholars from every corner of the known world. The conceit made no difference. They could have called it the barn so long as it did what he wanted. More important concerns filled his thoughts. Had he made a mistake returning to Cairn so soon? But he had been forced to flee too quickly, so it would be known in the right quarters that he actually had fled. Too quickly to prepare everything. There were questions he needed to ask and tasks that could not be put off. And Min wanted more of Master Fell's books. He could hear her muttering to herself as she rummaged through the shelves where they had been stored after Fell's death. With the bounty for books and manuscripts it did not yet possess, the Academy's library was fast outgrowing the rooms that could be spared in Lord Barthanas' former palace. Alana sat in the back of his head, sulking it seemed. She would know he was in the city. This near, she would be able to walk straight to him, but he would know if she tried. Blessedly, Lewis Theron was silent for the moment. Of late, the man seemed madder than ever.
It's a long read.
That was a long read, but we had to get to Rand. There was a lot of intro in Cairn, and then a little bit of what's going on with Rand. So he's hanging out in Barthanas' palace, aka the Academy, which I just love that constant callback.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite parts about. It's like, again, you can talk about a show. Like it's one of those scenes where they could just have the same location over and over and over again, and just evolve it over time.
Right, and do the little details, right, where they change the wall hangings, change the lighting, change the carpets, but it's still the same building. I love that it's Barthanas who's like an asshole.
Yeah, well, he gets killed.
Who has his house becomes a house of learning.
Yes,
it's very appropriate.
Take a Dark Friend's palace and turn it into an academy.
Yeah.
I think that's really appropriate.
Taking this back,
reclaiming something.
Yeah, but so they're there to collect information and other information, right? Because Min needs the books that turn into her revelations about Kalendor and all of that. Like all the stuff I think is great about Min is because she collects Master Fell's books. And then Randa's also there to gather intel. He's not there for books. He's there for talking to people, and mainly Adrian. Mainly. I mean, in context, what he's doing is, he's been attacked in the palace. He had to flee. Now he's back to just sort of take care of business, but he's also laying a bunch of false trails. Right, one of the things he's doing is absolutely making it look like he's going to a bunch of different places, so people can't track down where he's actually going. But this is the setup to tracking down the Ashaman and killing them. Yes, because for some reason he needs to kill these 4 guys before he calls every single one of his enemies to his exact location. I'm with his allies being like, why though? Because literally every channeler knows where you are when you start this thing. How does 4 more or less? Like, why? Why, Rand?
I don't think he knows just how many Dark Friends there are out there. He's like, I know the Forsaken are going to come for me. There's nothing I can do about that, but at least I can take out these couple of dudes. And it's like, yeah.
So it's like when the Supergirls are like, there's only 13 Black Odds.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rand thinks that most people are good and not evil.
Right.
And, sorry, Rand, have you met people?
Actually, now that I think about it, why don't more of the, Ashaman come after? Do you think Taim would send some more of his Dark Friend Ashaman after him?
Probably too weak. I bet Taim is like, that is a raging sun, you know, and we can't. And I guess maybe that's why Rand is taking out the channelers he thinks are powerful enough to challenge him.
That might make sense.
Maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a false trail for us as well. I think Rand laid us a false trail.
He's very good at that.
Yeah. I like also that Luce Theron is more talkative and Rand's more interacting with him. And it's like, oh yeah, Luce Theron's more mad than ever.
Yeah, because you're more mad than ever, Rand. You're fucking insane.
Yeah. He's bouncing around. He's got temporal ADD, I guess. Yeah.
We get references to the boot touching the leather script sitting below the window. That's something that we get over and over and over again. We don't necessarily know that those are the Choden Call until later, the access keys, but that's the access keys to the Choden Call he's been carrying around.
Yes, which is one of the reasons he had to go to Iridian, not just to lay a false trail, but also to pick up the keys. Oh no, he was keeping the keys with him.
Yeah, he had the keys with him for a while.
He had the keys with him at that point. Yeah, you're right. Edit that out.
You're the one doing it.
Yeah, that's how I sound so smart.
One of the cool things we get here that I really like about the academies is sort of the creation of modern technology, right? The fourth age is going to be an age of science, and these academies are a big part of it. And we see some of that in the last battle, right? Like here we've got the horseless carriage, right? The mechanical wagon with a steam boiler on it.
I love the early steam engine. There's not even rails yet. It's just like dragging itself along the ground. It's so cool.
But he does. He talks about how I can take one of these and attach a bunch of carts to them and drag them all. It's a train. He's inventing trains.
He's inventing trains.
Yeah, that's
but on roads instead of
right.
rails. Which I'm sure they'll get to rails. I mean, we see that in Avi's vision, right? That rails get sorted out because the flanged wheel on a rail is the most efficient way to move anything.
Gateways maybe slightly more efficient, but I think they combine the two. I think they have. They take the steam engine, attach a bunch of wagons to it, and drag it through gateways, and that's how they do a bunch of resupplies.
Yeah, totally.
So it's really helpful during the last battle.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that about the Academy, all the little hints, right? Tiny little hints that we're getting for what. Yeah, because then the fourth age is going to be science, technology, engineering, and probably math. Probably. They've already got art, but yeah, I wish we got more of that. I wish we got more of like trapping lightning in jars and actually the train we get to see a couple of times, which is cool, but
it is what I do like is that he's setting it up for post last battle. You know, it's this idea that like the story doesn't end when the last battle does. There's a whole world that keeps going after the last battle. And you know, we all wanted the Outrigger novels that we're never going to get, and that would have been fun stuff.
We do have a panel at WoTCon though for post-canon speculation that I will be on, so we do have that. But yeah, no Outrigger novels, unfortunately.
And I also love this. I don't know. I think we get a name for the guy who's inventing the steam engines, like in one of the previous chapters, but I don't have that on hand.
Yes, we do get his name somewhere.
But his just
I don't think it's in this chapter. I think it's the first time.
It's the first time we see him.
Yeah.
But his just like constantly getting burns on his hands and like being wrapped in bandages all the time, and
because
just, like,
steam.
Yeah, steam is dangerous stuff.
Very, very.
I think I'd rather be burned alive than steamed alive.
There's vanishingly small difference between the two. Yeah, steam train accidents are exciting, shall we say. It's a bomb, it's fine.
Live audience, Mervyn Poel. Nice, thank you.
Yeah. Yes,
live audience for the win. Thank you very much. So yeah, Mervyn with the burned hands.
He has the vision, you know. He has the vision
he's
to
a
make
scientist.
this work.
Why do we identify with the scientist? I don't know.
He watched a kettle explode one time and was like, you can make a religion out of this. Sorry, you can make inventions out of this.
The other thing that's really going on here is he's giving Dobrain control of Cairhien. And I feel like he's done that now with all of his major cities, right? Like he's now put somebody in charge of each of his cities, some of whom will become kings.
He's setting up all of his stewards and his regents and people like that. And I think at this point, this is the last one he has to hand out.
That's what it seems like, because we get a bit of Min talks about how we've been going to all of these places.
He hands Dobrain a couple of letters, one of which names someone else steward.
Right.
But yes, this is the end of Rand being like, I'm discharging my kingship. I need to go be an emperor, god person now. I can't be a king. That's too small. But yeah, he's updating with Dobrain and exchanging information. And Dobrain is giving him here's all the different things people think, and here's the elephant in the room. And Rand is like, that I'm insane. Yes, I know, that's a concern. Which, I mean, he did set up the Ashaman to decide to attack him, so he kind of did it to himself. Kind of? Not really.
I mean, and that's a debate we can always get into, is like, is it better to have sent up the Ashaman and have them, or did it create more problems than it was worth? I mean, I think saving him at Dumai's Wells makes it worth having them.
Yeah, and they provide him a really good smokescreen here, right? Like, the fact that he is vanished and no one knows if he's dead or insane or what, like, that helps, right? That helps with him laying all his false trails. Like, where did he go? I don't know. Like, he couldn't have gotten a better explosion to run away in, right? That was like the ultimate Squid Ink cloud, was the Ashaman being like, boom! Because otherwise he would have had to, like, blow the palace up himself? That would have been
That's a good point. Yeah, the whole disappearing thing and going off sort of incognito. This gives him an excuse to do that.
It would have been harder to fabricate.
Right. Because he is being hunted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tame sent those guys to kill him. That was the order.
And that was triggered by him deciding to cleanse the taint. Right? That information got back to the Dark One, and, like, you know, there's always this debate of, like, Rand's not always trying to be killed, right? There's this the first two books, Ishamael is not trying to kill Rand. It's only in the third book, when Rand totally disappears, that he's trying to assassinate him. And then after Ishamael comes back, he's not trying to kill him again, because they're, like, linked through the balefire streams. Right. So there's, like, this whole weird stormtrooper effect, right? Like, the stormtroopers...
Shoot, but don't hit!
Exactly, right? There's this whole, we're trying to torture him and make him feel terrible, but we're not actually trying to kill him.
Right. And also, we just have armies of red shirts to throw at the situation,
totally.
So it's fine.
Right.
This is a joke, the stormtrooper in the red shirt, they both die. Yeah, the stormtrooper misses, but the red shirt still dies. That's how it goes. Anyway. So yeah, we talk a little bit with Adrian Tarson, who's the headmistress of the academy. Mm-hmm. I like her, even though she doesn't do a whole lot. We learn about how Ailil and Shallan are missing after the attack because Rand stuffed them under the bed.
And he correctly summarizes that Codswain has them. He just, he doesn't know what she's holding over them, which is their relationship. But
yeah, he's like, the only reason that you don't know where they are is because Codswain got into it.
Right.
Yeah.
So he at least is sharp enough for that, but he doesn't know that they're trying to hide their relationship from their respective
cultures. Because that's not a
cultures.
Conspiracy. That has no political implications. There's no one else involved. It's just the two of them. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Luce Theron doesn't want him to survive. Rand is like, that's cool. I'm good. LTT is the insane one, not Rand.
Flynn, Narishma, and Hopwell are still in the palace. Even though they've been put on the traitor's tree. We never really get a resolution to that.
No, the quest to bring their heads to the traitor's tree never goes anywhere. We never see them survive assassination attempts or anything like that. And I was falling asleep to the rest of the book last night because that's how I sleep. And Codswain makes a mention about how she had already used blackmail on 3 of the Ashaman, which I had never quite realized. But the reason that the 3 Ashaman bond to the Eyes to Die was not entirely their own choice. Codswain is like, I made that happen.
What did she blackmail them with?
I don't know. That's the only line. I never understood about that. I thought it was just organic, right? I thought that, like, they just like, hey, will you take us in? But apparently Codswain feels like she blackmailed them into it. Or it's other Ashaman she's talking about, but I think it's those 3. And yeah, Rand is very confused about what the hell's going on with Codswain. Mm-hmm. She's like, is she not interested in me after all? That's good. That's good, right? That's good. I'm happy.
But because of the foretelling, he knows he needs to learn something from her. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, he's like, it's good because she's Aes Sedai, but it's bad because I need to know something. Mm-hmm. I don't know what, but I need to know something.
So then they're playing this like game of like hard to get for a while. Like Rand and Codswain are like literally playing hard to get with each other for a bit. Like, I'm not interested in you. Well, I'm not interested in you. We're just staying in the same room together for no reason.
Oh God, it's the worst dating game ever.
I'm just glad there isn't romantic tension between those characters. Yeah, no.
I love this line. Could it be as simple as Codswain thinking she could decide who would rule both Tyr and Cairhien? simple. He almost laughed. But yeah, it's like, yeah, it's just as simple as her thinking she can control who rules 2 countries.
Except that this,
Minor.
Yeah, but that's like not even really what she's focused on. She's like, ugh, I guess I'll decide the kings or
Right.
whatever.
Fine.
So I can get on to the next thing. Like, she doesn't even care.
It's totally on her just like checklist of
It's like how Rand doesn't want to be a king. She doesn't want to be a kingmaker. They're like, I have bigger ambitions.
take out the groceries, decide who's going to be king.
Yeah, walk the dog.
Walk the dog.
Execute some
Dishes.
traitors, whatever. All right, train goes. I got horses. Oh, there's Marvin Pole.
Yep. The name
His
does
name
pop
is right
up.
here. Marvin Pole Steam Wagon. There we go.
So we do get his name.
In
So
this
cut
chapter.
that entire conversation out earlier.
Nope.
No, damn it.
Only I get to sound smart. You have to sound dumb.
I love Rand thinking it was supposed to make music. He thought it was an organ player. Like, and it's, no, it's a wagon.
Yeah, that was like a little like I don't know music box that like it's hilarious. Rand is such a country yokel sometimes.
Okay. There's a second reference here to I've seen old manuscripts that talk about people with eyes in their bellies. I don't think this is the first reference we get to people with eyes in their
No.
bellies. It is definitely the second.
Yes.
What's going on there? What sort of legend is that based around?
I feel like there must be one, but it's probably ancient Greek. I don't know. Audience, help.
Live audience.
Why?
Yeah.
All I know is it comes from King Fortune.
Right, yeah, that's the first reference. And then it's here again, so it's like, well, there must be something to it, but I cannot think of any myths about people with head parts in their belly parts. Must
So
exist, though.
I'm going to just go to Headless Men in Wikipedia. Various species of mythical headless men were rumored in antiquity and later to inhabit some parts of the world. They're variously known as Icapholi, headless ones, or Baim, I don't know how to say that, Blem-eyes, and described as lacking a head with their facial features on their chest. They were first described as inhabitants of ancient Libya or the Nile system.
I mean, this seems logical. Heads are a very important part of the body. Having people that don't have them would be good for myths.
I'm going to see if I can find a realistic...
Either that or it's just a very strange interpretation of what belly buttons are. But that seems unlikely.
Sorry, I'm just doing a little lookup. Of course, the other thing he mentions is animals with giant tusks, 10 feet tall. I feel
Mammoths.
like it's got to be mammoths or like
Yeah,
just elephants.
or giant elephants.
Yeah, I mean 10 feet tall is not that giant.
Oh yeah, but they have elephants. Well, only in Shanshan.
Shanshan and
actually.
Shanshan, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, it might be normal elephants. Yeah.
Well, there is the connection that Shara might have trade with Shasha.
Oh yeah, Shara and Shanshan would
Mhm.
have.
The silkworms that they're mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, and if you look at the globe of the planet, it's a pretty short boat trip from Shara to Shanshan.
Right, it
If
might
you
actually
assume
be
it's
shorter
Earth.
across. That might be the Atlantic, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Which leads to why haven't they fought already?
That is a question.
Because they're very similar concrete type societies.
I mean, it's very possible that they do fight. You know, that you have, you know, channelers versus channelers, and that becomes, you know, your channeling slaves fight their channeling slaves, and nobody makes any headway, right? But we haven't necessarily heard about that.
They do eventually conquer them because of obvious visions later.
Right, yeah, the Raven Empire in the Fourth Age seems to be taking over Shara, assuming nothing changes in that timeline. But, yeah. So, yeah, it must just be elephants, because we don't see elephants in the Westlands until the Shanshan arrive.
So, contemporary literature says that certain writers attribute Blemmy's physique as an ability to raise both shoulders to an extraordinary height and encompassing their head in between. So it's just like having no neck and flexible shoulders.
Weird.
Native warriors perhaps employed a tactic of keeping their head tucked close to their breast while marching with one knee on the ground. Or perhaps they had the custom of carrying shields ornamented with faces. Europeans also formally considered blemmies to be an exaggerated report about apes. So that's the other thing is just apes, the way they walk with their head down a little bit. It could just be bonobos. So
misinterpreted normal phenomena does fit the bill.
I'm just curious what but this is a real world phenomenon. This isn't something that Jordan's inventing for the Wheel of Time. This is something that is reported in history, and there's drawings of people like that all the time.
Yeah.
To me, the idea of them being monkeys that people just don't see very clearly because of the way they hold their heads down and the way their arms are generally up over their head, that makes more sense to me than anything else.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Anything else interesting in what Adrian is complaining about? She says, bad enough I must give space to philosophers and historians and arithmetists and all these damn engineers.
Well, I mean, you've got the looking glass. You can see the moon through it as plain as your hand. So you've got the beginnings of astronomy, legitimate astronomy, which again, with gateways, you can channel where you can see. So
moon base.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool that in the Fourth Age you have travel to other planets, travel to moons, travel to that sort of thing. We also have gliders, right?
At the beginning of aviation.
Beginning of astronomy.
I mean, it's just like a person strapping a kite to their back, but it'll become an airplane. Give it a few centuries.
And then you got like river boats with water wheels, which are just like, that's a very traditional water wheel.
That is a good way to get boats up and down rivers is to have water wheels. That's like some Mark Twain era imagery in my head.
That's exactly what came to mind. Is, going up the Mississippi.
Yeah, which is, it's a huge thing to be able to go upstream.
Right.
And to be able to move a boat without using human power. Because humans are heavy.
Right.
So a water wheel that can just use the stream is way better for moving cargo
and
upstream.
not having to rely on the wind.
Yeah.
Because the wind doesn't always blow in the right direction.
Very fickle.
And of course, trapping lightning in big jars.
Electricity.
We've got the beginnings of electricity. So it's like, it really is the creation of a modern society and modern technology. And again, this is why I think the Outrigger novels will be really interesting, because you have modern society and channeling combined. And
you can do all the OP broken stuff that we like to talk about.
Exactly. Like, once you've invented steam engines and you have Quendiar, what happens when you can have an infinite amount of pressure inside a vessel? You can create all sorts of cool effects. Yeah.
You can be ripping holes in the space-time continuum. No time at all.
And of course, Rand saying maybe one of these inventions would turn out to be important. And it's like, no, all of them. All of them.
These are all critical to the world in which these books will be written, Rand. Like, this is your origin story. Yeah. Batteries are really cool, too. Like, it's cool that they're figuring out batteries. Not just electricity, but, like, storage of electricity.
Well, I think the electricity in jars comes first, right? Because haven't we seen a bunch of those like old clay jars with like vinegar in the middle and a cathode, and like that's an easier way to create electricity is by creating a battery which has a chemical reaction.
You're right.
Than to actually have capacitors and generators and magnets and stuff like that.
My lack of an engineering degree is really showing right now.
The connection between magnetism and electricity came much later than experimentation with electricity.
Right.
Then we get a great Lewis Theron quote. I thought I could build. I was wrong. We are not builders, not you or I or the other one. We are destroyers. And of course, the other one, Moradin, right? Moradin, Ashamael,
and Luz.
And Lewis.
Yeah, it's LTT, his ancient nemesis, and his second iteration of his soul.
And the reason he's talking about the other one is because we have the crossing of the streams. We're seeing Ishamael's face, Moradin's face, whenever Rand seizes the power. Right,
yeah, and that's like, it's funny that it's another one of the things that makes LTT feel real, I think, is because he responds to Moradin, and Moradin is real. So it's like, oh well, if Luz is reacting to him, then Luz is clearly, I don't know. It makes Luz feel separate from Rand.
It does, because Rand doesn't know who that is, whereas it seems like LTT does. LTT knows exactly who this other one is because he knows he's a destroyer. Whereas Rand is like, oh, I don't know.
Right, and LTT is like my ancient enemy. Right. The vibes are just wrong.
So it does seem to me that Rand has to know who that other one is. He's just not admitting it to himself.
Well, and he doesn't know who that face is. He's like, well, yeah, there's another face in my head, but I don't have a name or like a personality, right? I think Rand knows he's got more faces in his head, right?
I mean, he knows about the third face,
Yeah.
but... And if he thought about it, he would have known that's the guy who saved him from the pit in Shadar Logoth.
Yeah.
And that to me is one of those things where he has to be lying to himself, right? This guy who channeled balefire that he couldn't feel. Like, I know a lot of things happened where he, like, balefired, you know, one of the maidens.
Oh, Leah?
And the fog, and he was still fighting
Samael.
But the whole crossing of streams of balefire and not being able to sense it and that guy rescuing you, like, that's a threat, and you should know that. And I think in a lot of ways, he's a little too confident that he knows the faces of all the Forsaken.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in fairness, Moradin's face is not the face of a Forsaken. It's the face of a modern Third Age man who got his body snatched.
That's true. Yeah.
So, and then we get a great line from Rand, just to follow up that great line from LTT. At times, the voices sounded sanest when it was most mad. It's like, Rand, I think you're going mad.
When you agree with the mad voice, that's a problem. The mad voices in my head are right.
Yeah.
You may also be insane.
So then Rand gives over these letters, which is one names Dobrain, steward in Kyrian, and then the other one names Gregorin, steward in Ilion. So it's, 2 more crowns or regencies.
Is one of them about Darlin, Cisneros?
No, because Darlin is still currently held under lock and key in Lady Arlen's palace by Cadswain.
Gotcha.
They get released at Dobrain's insistence later in the book.
But I think he has a line here. You'll know when to deliver the other, whether to deliver it. Pry him out if need be, and decide by what he says.
Oh, a third is for Gregorin. Okay, no, you're right. Yeah.
So yes, he's being held captive, but she's saying pry him out of Cadswain's hands if you need him to.
Which is why Dobrain breaks them out against Cadswain's wishes. I always wondered where he got the motivation for that. It's because Rand handed him a letter and said, "Figure it out. You're my steward." Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then, he also gives the injunction, when Elaine needs your support, give it to her. And he thinks about his ladies, and Min is still looking through books, and that's fine.
Min's grumbling over her plain coat and breeches. And that is something that we've seen a lot with the women, where as they've gotten fancier and fancier clothing, when they're forced to go back to Two Rivers woolens or just plain clothes, they're not happy about it. They're like, but I like my fancy clothes.
Nynaeve being the most obvious example.
Yeah, obviously.
But Min does it too. She's like, I hate this, give it back.
Yeah. I like looking pretty. And like, I started a new job recently, and when I started the job, I sort of started dressing up. I was like, I have an opportunity to wear my fancy clothes again, and it felt really good. And then everyone was like, you don't have to do that. Like, we don't do that here. Like, we're in bunny suits. It's hot. Wear a t-shirt and jeans, or shorts even. And I was like, but I want to wear my fancy clothes. I feel like it. Exactly. I need an excuse to dress up. I'm actually kind of excited for the VIP dinner tonight, just because we get to dress up. No, I haven't done that in a while, so I have like a coat jacket and everything.
Oh, fancy.
I know.
I just brought some weird hippie clothes that are fancier than my normal weird hippie clothes.
Oh, good. Yeah, okay. Then you're all good.
I love how the headmistress is angry that money is being given to other academies. She's like, no, I should be the only academy in the whole world. I like her profession.
The beginning of toxic academia.
Yeah. I guess when I say I love it, I don't mean I love it. It's funny to me. It's a personality trait, right? That she's like so defensive. She's like, ugh, all these people that come here, they're so annoying and they're so ridiculous. Also, don't you dare take them away. They're mine.
She's very protective of her nerds. I think that's why we love them so much, is it's a collection of like, these are the nerds of the Wheel of Time. These are really the smart people.
Yeah, it's a good ivory tower. And then, Min comes back carrying more or less the entire library on her back, I think. Just staggering slightly, so I'm assuming it's like 200 pounds of books, just like, grrr.
And then, Rand, you should have picked smaller books. Listen, Rand. Just because I like really thick books You're in the Wheel of Time. They're like the thickest books they are. Again, I think this is a bit of a like nod to the readers who are like carrying, a little fourth wall breaking as we're carrying around these massive Wheel of Time books, and Rand's like, you should have picked smaller books. Like if you have a problem with the slog, should have picked smaller books.
I had to literally photocopy the pages of the book I needed because I did not want to spend half my luggage on bringing the entirety of this book.
Because you like the physical books.
Yes, and I have like a giant hardcover because that was what was cheap on Powell's when I was buying it. So it's like the largest version. Rand is dizzy without Sidene.
Yeah, this is the first time we really see, always before this dizziness and the other face pops in when he seizes the source. And we're seeing that sort of get worse and worse and worse. And now it's actually happening when he's not seizing the source. And we get that, again, the crossing of the streams is a problem for him.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better soon. Just give me another minute. I'll be fine. And Rand, it's getting worse progressively.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he had just turned too fast, and maybe pigs did fly. I mean, there's the glider being made, so one of these days, pigs could fly.
It is very, very true. Rand almost sends Min away and then lies about how he wasn't going to do that. Because Min is like, no, you can't send me away. And Rand's like, I totally wasn't thinking that at all.
I mean, it's what he's done with all the women. That's why he's not hanging out with Elaine. That's why he's not hanging out with Avienda. He's realized he has feelings for them, and then he sent them away. And he really is, he's like, I'm too weak. I can't do it again. I can't send Min away. I need somebody. And it's, yeah, you're going insane, and you need her for emotional support.
Yeah, and she's willing to stay.
Right.
So maybe don't fight it. But
maybe
he stops
it's
fighting
okay.
it, more or less, here. So yeah, they are done at the academy, and he gateways them out to pick up their horses, which are 500 miles from Kyrian, in the middle of nowhere. And so Rand is like, hey, I'm going to tell you what we're doing now. And Minna's like, good, because I put together like 9/10 of the plan. So just give me that last little bit so that I can feel very smart. She's now gotten to see the Aiel Waste, which is cool. You don't really get to see what like Min's first view of the waste is, but she's like the first tourist to ever go to Ruidian, right? She's like the first wetlander to just be like, hey, cool buildings.
Well, yeah, I mean, after the fight with Asmodean, the dome is broken.
Yeah, and the Aiels start moving in and inhabiting the city. It becomes a city.
I kind of assume at that point, and I'm not sure we ever have confirmation of this, that it's available until I run Riyadh again.
I would assume so. I don't know if we get confirmation, but those wards definitely included the you can't go there in the dream space. I would assume that it's totally open now. No one ever checks that.
No one ever checks that. Yeah, no one ever goes there.
You think the Aiel would have checked that?
Right. The Dreamwalkers?
You'd think.
You think. I mean, I'm assuming they do. We just don't get any statements
Yeah.
about it, you know.
Yeah.
And that might be part of why they're okay with people moving in, is because it's no longer this special place until I run Riyadh. So yeah, you asked so many places about this Shara place. Again, I love the little drops about Shara throughout the books that come back to bite us in the last battle. Yeah, we you know, it took me by surprise in the last battle. It was just an incredible surprise, and yet going back through and reading it, I'm like, oh no, Shara's mentioned a lot. We shouldn't have been surprised.
We should have seen it coming, but it's still, I mean, he didn't tell you how to expect it. He didn't tell you to expect a wall of worse than Shan-Chan channelers to come through. It's just like, oh, Shara.
So in Ruidian, he talks about Shara. In Tyr, he talks about Chan-Chin. You know, and so he's just laying all these false trails.
Yeah, tons of false trails because he just wants people confused about where he's going. And Rand attributes this rationale to Min reading Herod Fell's books. We have not read Herod Fell's books, and yet we can still come to this conclusion. So.
Yeah, I mean, she's just thinking critically, right? She's being a critical thinker.
Which is, I think, why she does so well with Herod Fell's books, is because she's that kind of person already. Not because Herod Fell's books made her smart. It's like, no, you were that kind of smart first.
And when she's asking why take the time, I know you've got a plan, and I know it concerns the Sangreal, I think he's stalling. I think he's terrified of cleansing the taint. There's a very real possibility that when he takes the taint from the One Power and combines it with the taint from Shadar Logoth, he could break the world again.
Super taint.
Super taint. That he's pretty sure they're going to cancel out. He's had a lot of clues. He's got the opposing beats on his wound. He's got the fact that the Dark Friends and the Shadow Spawn could sense the dagger. There's this attraction, but also this canceling out thing that he's figured out and that he wants to use in order to destroy the taint. But he's still terrified.
Mm-hmm. And he needs to collect Nynaeve, which means he has to face Nynaeve's temper when she hears about his plan. Also a reason to drag your feet. You gotta convince Nynaeve this is a good idea.
Also, the timing needs to be right for Nynaeve to be like, I need to get the hell out of here. I'm tired of dealing with this Sean-Chan.
Yeah. And I think there's a bit of, he thinks, in the last book, I think, about how, like, well, I need to get over this sickness before I do the next big thing. And I think he's still stalling in hopes he'll stop getting dizzy, but he's getting more
He's getting worse,
dizzy, so he's gonna have to let go of that pretty soon.
It's one of those things where I wonder if the time effect of Balefire is basically, because Balefire works backwards through time, that there's this connection between when he switches bodies and when the Balefire happens. That, like, basically, as he gets closer and closer to switching bodies, they're becoming... cause and effect are reversed here, right? Is sort of what I'm trying to say. Is like
sort of like backwards flowing harmonic.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we get the Bale scream that goes backwards in time as well, right? So again, the cause happens after the effect, not the other way around. And so, we kind of think that the crossing of the streams is the cause, but what if the body swap is the cause?
I mean, why not both?
Well, yeah. Circular time.
Yeah, because Rand doesn't get better, does he? He doesn't get particularly worse.
He does get better after Veins of Gold.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
His physicality.
Which I don't have a great explanation for, other than he's just more in tune with himself and able to deal with it.
Well, definitely when I was flying in here yesterday, I was very anxious, and I was not sick, but my body temperature was all over the map, just from the anxiety. Just like, I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm hot, I'm cold. Just for the travel. So there could be something about that too, where like after he's not as anxious because he's had Veins of Gold and his integration, that maybe like his body's just a little more settled. Psychosomatic stuff.
Right. And we can talk about how, the soul wanted to go to the body that... The soul wanted to go into the body that was going to live versus the one that wanted to die. And perhaps there's a little bit of this, I want to get out of my own body right now. And that once he goes through Veins of Gold, he's not so much trying to get out of his dying body as much. He's not physically trying to get away from himself. He's more comfortable in himself. And then there's not quite as much crossover.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so, and this is
the
where...
announcement?
Yeah, the announcement. He says, what are you planning, aside from killing Deshiva and the rest, I have a right to know if I'm traveling with you.
She had not insisted on traveling with him.
I'm traveling with you. Therefore, you have to tell me all your plans.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes total sense. And this is the announcement. I'm going to cleanse the male half of the source, he said in a flat voice. And that's... Again, I like the way Jordan begins the book with the announcement that they're going to cleanse the source and ends the book with the cleansing, right? What I've noticed is he does a lot of that, like in Fires of Heaven, he basically opens it with Moraine announcing she's going to commit suicide. And then the whole book is her making those plans, and at the end she commits suicide, quote in quotes, to kill Lanfear.
Mutual homicide.
Yeah. And like in the beginning of the last book, he's like, I'm going to take on the Sean-Chan, and then we see him battle the Sean-Chan. Jordan does have complete thoughts as single books when writing these series. More so, I think, because the plot lines meander a little bit, it feels like, especially with Perrin.
Just gotta wait for it.
You just gotta wait for it. But he really does intend to finish what he starts in these books.
Yeah, no, he's got a beginning and a middle and an end. It's
Yeah.
just he doesn't want you to know what those things are.
Right. Although this one he does kind of say it straight out. Like,
he does.
That's how I'm going to end this book, is with the cleansing.
Yeah. And he says he knows that everyone within 1,000 miles of him will channel and will feel him channeling and will come to get him. And yeah, he's like, I can't do anything with the Forsaken, but I can finish the others. It's like, Rand, you're talking like 1% of the others. It's, though, in fairness, they would probably have all come to the cleansing and been a problem.
They would have been.
I mean, his defenders are hard-pressed to keep him safe during that, so.
I don't, well, yes and no. I mean, I feel like they mop up a little bit.
They lose the one guy
Yeah.
because she's channeling Saidin.
Right.
I think that's it, actually.
I mean, it's Codswain. Codswain is why they kick ass, right?
Yeah.
She's got all the Tarangrial. She can identify channelers.
Well, and Olivia.
And
The
Olivia.
sheer battering ram that is
That's
Olivia.
true. Yeah, she's a big, and the Sangreal of Kalendor.
Right, they bring Kalendor into it.
Right,
yeah.
that's a big stick.
So yeah, they probably could have done it without Rand getting himself and Lan even more hurt on the way down.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, and not to mention the fact that like Rand didn't even kill most of these dudes. Bane does.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's him stalling. It's him spinning his wheels, going through excuses, and being like, "Well, but first I gotta. But first I gotta. But first I gotta." And then he runs out of "but first I gottas." And has to follow through.
It's like that thing where you have something you're putting off, so you clean the house and do all the dishes.
I'm raising my hand.
This is Rand cleaning house, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't.
This is Rand organizing the junk drawer before he does the laundry or whatever. Yeah.
Just for him, cleaning house is killing off a bunch of his enemies.
It's cleaning house.
It's cleaning house. Yeah.
Taking out the trash. That is not taking itself out. Min says, maybe I can think of a better way to do this. She doesn't. She doesn't at all. She tries to think of a better way, and that doesn't work.
Yeah, and in the readout, he does say, I have to deal with the sickness. I need time to get over the sickness, right? And again, I think it's stalling. Because we know he doesn't get over the sickness before he gives it a shot. So
Yeah, I agree. He's got good excuses to wait, and he's stalling. Both can be true at the same time. I know from experience. I love how Min is just so nonchalant, though. She knows he's planning something huge, and he makes this announcement, and he expects her to, like, freak out, and she's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Cool.
totally.
Let's go.
Totally. Well, and he's definitely talked about cleansing the source before. This isn't the first time. But not with her. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he only said it out loud on accident that one time, which is the whole reason that the Ashaman have been going after him. I don't think he's ever said it out loud other than that one time.
Okay.
Which was a bad time. He should not have done that.
Right, yeah, in front of a bunch of Dark Friends? No, not
Yeah.
Dark Friend spies. Keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, that brings us to the end of the prologue, and I'll read us out.
Yeah.
I think I'll start with Depending on Luck.
I was going to say Depend on Luck.
Depend on luck, and Corlin de Shiva or the Forsaken, or either one will have you for breakfast, she said, turning her horse out of the clearing. Maybe I can think of a better way. Come on, there's a warm fire at that inn. I hope you're going to let us have a hot meal before we leave. Rand stared after her incredulously. You would have thought 5 renegade Ashaman, not to mention the Forsaken, were less bothered than a sore tooth. Booting the gray ahead in a spray of snow, he caught up to her and rode in silence. He still had a few secrets from her. The sickness that had begun affecting him when he channeled, for one. That was the real reason he had to deal with Deshiva and the others first. It gave him time to get over the sickness, if that was possible. If not, he was not sure the 2 Terran riding behind his saddle were going to be any use at all.
And spoilers, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
There'll be plenty of use. He will not get over it. He'll use the Angreal. It'll be fine.
And Nynaeve will use the other one.
And then Nynaeve will use the other one. Yeah. It's, so there we go. At part 3, we have finished the prologue of Winter's Heart.
And that was only an hour. Yeah,
only an hour.
Totally short for us.
Yeah, we made that fit into our allotted time slot.
Yes. So once again, thank you live folks. Really appreciate you coming in and giving us feedback. And to the 10 or so people who are here on Discord, I also really appreciate you guys showing up every single time.
For sure.
For sure.
And it's WoTCon. It's WoTCon. We're WoTConing. This is great. This is so much fun. I'm so glad to be here. And
yeah, and we did choose a short section because we did have a short time slot here at JordanCon. So again,
WoTCon.
WoTCon. What con are we at?
The con.
So speaking of SpoilerCon, registration is open for SpoilerCon. It's a segue. It was intentional. So yes, registration is open for SpoilerCon. Again, you will not be able to reserve a room with the room block online. They have failed to make that work for us this year. So you will have to call the hotel if you want a room block.
Which is annoying, but it is a thing.
It is a thing, but the room block does exist. And if you weren't able to make it to WoTCon, we do hope to see you at SpoilerCon.
Which will be a lot less elaborate. Just saying.
It's going to be like the CouchCon here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mainly because we don't have Recappa writing everything for us.
That's such a clutch. I'm just watching them lean on her. Him, whatever.
Recappas are her.
Recappas are her.
Yeah, no. This just for anyone who doesn't know, WoTCon is awesome so far.
Yeah, we've been having a blast.
We did opening ceremonies, and then we went right to this. So
yeah.
We'll report next recording about how the whole rest of the event went, but I'm sure it'll be great. Very, very exciting.
Yeah. And yeah, so I guess, is there anything else we want to talk about with WoTCon? Travel, hotel?
I don't know.
Just that I already, I guess I can say about WoTCon, I already have the vibes of a Jordan Con or a Spoiler Con. Like, it's the same group of people doing the same amazing things. I am so happy to be here and so happy to be hanging out with these awesome people, and I can't wait to spend the next 48 hours doing more of it. Yeah,
this is my first con that isn't Spoiler Con. The first con I haven't organized, first con with panels, like real panels.
You're holding up very well.
Well, I haven't had a chance to collapse yet. No, I'm super, super glad. It's been very fun interacting with people and just be like, hey, we are now best friends. Oh, wait, you already know my voice, so you already think of us as best friends. So it's cool. I'm happy to be here. It's very exciting to meet everyone and see them all in 3D. Seeing people in 3D instead of smashed onto a Zoom 2-dimensional panel is just beautiful.
It's been nice. And as always, like connecting the username with the actual physical person for some of the people, where I'm like, oh, that's the Twitter name or the Discord name that I've seen everywhere. Okay.
And someone has like a little cartoonish avatar, and you assume that that's what they look like, and then
right.
they don't look like their random cartoon avatar, and it's very confusing. Or
sometimes it's just a photo of them that's either an old photo or like from an odd angle, and you're like, oh, yeah, now I see it. Like, it takes a second.
The 10-year-old professional headshot shrunk down to the size of a dime.
Right, yeah, no, they're tiny on some of these things. So
yeah.
It's nice to get that connection. But yeah, the funny thing is, just like the names that people come up with, and you realize that's a screen name, and you have to call them by that now, and it's like...
DJ Nibbles.
Yes, Snape's new name, DJ Nibbles.
Yeah, well...
Now... Is it nibbles like eats little bites, or nipples like the thing on our...
Nibble, like eating.
Like eating, okay.
With the B, not the P. Yeah.
I wasn't entirely sure.
It was not DJ Nipples. No,
okay.
It was DJ Nibbles.
That sounded exactly the same to me when you said it twice.
Wow, I tried really hard to articulate that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is why I always spell my name. It's like Arabia, but with a D instead of a B, because people will not hear the difference.
No.
Like, I have to...
No, it's Aradia. I think I got a couple of mispronunciations of your name. People are like, oh, is Aradia coming today? And I was like, yeah, no, she'll be here.
Yeah.
But
it's a fun name to have like that. And yeah, as far as the rest of WoTCon goes, I'm on a panel later today, which is post-canon speculation, I believe, with Maria and some other people. I guess Maria's the only one that matters, though. And then tomorrow, you and I are both on panels.
Yes, I'm on 2 panels. One is books that Wheel of Time readers also like, and I'm moderating that one. And then the other one is being moderated by the Dustian Innkeeper, and that one is all about prophecies that are unsolved.
Oh, I'm envious of that one. I've done unresolved prophecies with Matt Hatch before, and it's fun.
That is a fun one. And I've got a whole spreadsheet that I've been working on for like days and days and days, where I've basically taken every single prophecy and put them in a spreadsheet, put the prophecy, put what I think is the solution of it, put whether it's solved. It's got like over almost 300 entries in the spreadsheet. Wow. Like, it's been a lot of work to put that together.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and hopefully I will be able to come out with a list of books at the end of that panel. So I'll be like writing them all down.
Nice.
But
yeah, my other panel tomorrow is What IRL. So I'm going to be giving a lecture that any fans of the podcast will already have heard before about wave physics and why the Shanshan didn't sail across the Cabal Deep. But yeah, there's going to be 4 of us doing different things that Robert Jordan drew from in the real world into his thing, and that's going to be real fun. So hope the recordings are up for people to listen to. Hope to see you guys there. And yeah, I think
that's our time.
We are being kicked out.
Yeah, we're being
at
kicked
this
out.
point.
So
it is the moment to be kicked out. So bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Okay, so with that bullshit out of the way, I would like to welcome everyone back to Post-WoTCon life.
Post-WoTCon. And we had some technical difficulties getting started on this episode because of WoTCon and traveling. So those have been resolved. We're going to start. We planned on starting this early so we could do some WoTCon retcon.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but like it's not retconning. We are going to be retrospectiving the con, but we won't be changing what happened. Because what happened was perfect. What happened at WoTCon?
Yeah, I'm going to shorten that to retcon.
No modification.
Right.
Everything about WoTCon was actually perfect.
Yeah, so this was your first, I should say, non-spoiler con, and I hesitate to call spoiler con really a con in the same way, because one, you're running it, and two, it's much smaller. Speaking of which, tickets are available for SpoilerCon. This is probably, we're getting down to the wire. Now is a good chance to go to spoilercon.org, order your tickets, please.
Yeah, we've gotten a couple of tickets, actually, because of how we sales pitched that at WoTCon. We even got mentioned a few times. We got name dropped in the coordination for WoTCon and at WoTCon. But yeah, so WoTCon was freaking amazing. Because yeah, I'd never been to any kind of convention. Doing SpoilerCon all the years was like always like, oh, this is the most people I've ever hung out with. This is really cool. Like it was a good warm up. Wanted to go to JordanCon the last 2 years. Just it didn't work out. And this was amazing. I also, though, will say that I was very ready for it to be done when it was over. Like most people were like crying about how it had to be over. And I was just like, I should have booked my flight for this evening. I'm ready to go home. Like, I'm tired. I haven't eaten properly. Like, I miss my husband. Like, I'm ready to go home. I think I have one of these in me a year with all the travel. And if money wasn't an object, if my feelings about the carbon emissions of travel weren't an object, I still think I have one of these in me a year. It was such a huge emotional,
that's fair,
social energy output.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that plus SpoilerCon is about, there's a reason we didn't go to JordanCon this year. And money was an issue, but also just the amount of social capital, I think. Yeah.
And I didn't know how much it would cost me, and I was being conservative. And oh, yeah, that was a reasonable estimate of how many spoons I would have. I attempted to take a nap every day. Like, I was doing my best to try to eat, but I couldn't basically eat, and I couldn't really sleep. And I did take showers. I did do that part of the 3-2-1 rule. But that was the only thing I could control. But it was wonderful. And I thought we could maybe kind of attempt to walk through the timeline of the thing so we can hit our highlights.
Okay. I mean, well, I'll start off. I had a great time the first night talking books. I actually met Sherbert Mango. I want to shout her out.
Sherbert Mango.
We hung out we talked a lot. We connected on the Kate Daniels series that first night. And I'll be honest, like I did my panels, which were a lot of fun. I did Unsolved Prophecies. I did a lot of research on that and got some compliments on that one. I did books that Wheel of Time readers love. Both go watch those if you want to see more. They're available to those of you who either have an online ticket or were there in person. I had a blast doing those, had a blast sitting down with Matt Hatch, had a blast meeting all my friends. But always, 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 the best part of these cons is sitting around on the couches, meeting people who are other Wheel of Time fans and making friends with the people you know. I'm sure I didn't talk to nearly as many people as I wanted to, right? I probably barely talked to half the people there. And I probably only talked to them half as much as I wanted to. There's a certain quote from Lord of the Rings that's like, what is it?
We all know the quote you're talking about, and none of us can quote it.
Never can quote it. So think about that quote, and I knew half of you half as well as I should like, and such and such. I actually could eat, which is actually a first for me at a con. I think I'm getting more comfortable with cons where the food is actually staying down.
I have hope. There's light at the end.
There is light at the end of the tunnel. Social anxiety does fade over time eventually. I think I did a pretty good job sleeping. I got a solid 6 hours every night. So, I was a little better off in terms of that. And I think that this con did a really good job of keeping everybody inclusive.
Yeah. the amount of audience interaction that was created by the main channel programming. I mean, the first brilliant decision they made was having Matt Hatch be the MC, right? To have the innkeeper be the MC of the event was like, well, this is going to go great. But it was so much fun how much interaction they created, and having us all eat together and having us have downtime. Like, they really created the conditions in which we would quickly bond into little like subunits and groups and then break up and reform. And like, one of the funniest things to me was how many people I wanted to meet because I know them online. And we would quickly hug and squee and say, oh my God, I'm going to catch up with you later. And then we wouldn't see each other for the rest of the con. And I would spend hours talking with people who I had no idea existed before the con because they were fascinating, interesting people. And I'd never interacted with them before. People online, I'm like, I know you, I love you, but I've seen you online and I want to talk to this other stranger who I just realized I'm best friends with. Though I did make it a point to talk to Lesbian Nerdy and Rob because the fact that they traveled across oceans literally motivated me to go to the con. So I made it a point to talk with them, and it was every bit worth it. I was so glad that I went and I got to just couch con with Jenny and stand around in the lobby with Rob. And
yeah, and like I said, both of them, I did that thing where I was like, oh, I love you. It's great to see you. We'll definitely catch up. And just didn't. Like, I think I saw Rob like twice the entire weekend, and he was like recording one of those times. And I saw Lesbian Nerdy a lot more, but usually at a distance. And with her, great. She had the fake face that she would hold up for so no one could actually see her face, which was amazing.
Oh my God. She also had the app in her phone so she could make her face, and she held it up to me so that I was her for a minute. Like,
awesome.
It would just map on whoever's face. Like, I was talking and her face was responding. It was so surreal. My first night when I arrived, the best thing. So I arrive at like 12:30, right? And I go through all this effort to not arrive alone, like in an Uber in the middle of a strange city at night. Totally didn't fucking work out. I had to do the whole thing solo anyway, because I'm an adult. And I arrive and I'm super keyed up, right? And I'm like, it's 1 a.m. Where am I going to get a beer from? And shout outs to impossibly spectacular Josh for getting to me in 5 minutes with a backpack full of beer and being like, what do you need? Do you need a beer? And he is impossibly spectacular.
He supplied me with Yinling that first night. And Yinling, if you don't know, is very much a like East Coast beer that's hard to get out here on the West Coast. But I grew up. I went to college in Philly, so I started drinking beer in Philly, and that was like the default beer. Instead of PBR or Bud or anything like that, people drank Yinling. So when he handed me a Yinling, I like took a sip and I was like, oh, this brings me way back. Reminds me of childhood. Well, not childhood, but college. Mm-hmm. Very nostalgic.
Like adult
childhood. Yes, basically. And so that was very nostalgic. Yeah, I can't get it here in Portland.
Yeah, I have no idea. It was clearly cheap beer, and it was exactly what I needed to start winding down. Mm-hmm. And it was just brilliant because I never would have even tried to sleep. And I did like lay down and sleep for like 6 hours a night, but I didn't sleep well. But yeah, the opening ceremonies day one were amazing. We weren't sitting there being talked to, right? It was like very interactive. There was call and response. People were being singled out. People were being included. Like,
shout out to Recappa, Brian.
Because oh my God.
Most of that was written by Brian. Most of the bits, most of the sketches, most of the audience interaction.
And the dusty one shall be interrupted.
Brian did a great job. Yeah, just absolutely nailed it, put in a ton of work to make sure that all that was pulled off, including like a magic act and like there was just multiple bits throughout all of the meals that were written by Brian Recappa.
Yeah, so much scripted hilarity. It's very Tarvalin After Dark. Like it was like we were in a Dusty Wheel stream, but then occasionally it would just like become Tarvalin After Dark.
Right. Well, because I mean, if you think this con really was, Nay Bliss, Jess, and Brian, which is Tarvalin After Dark, with a lot of Matt Hatch thrown in there to run it.
Yeah, it felt like being in both of those shows, which if you aren't enjoying both of those shows, like, first of all, I understand there's too much content, but those are two really distinct flavors. And then, yeah, I had 2 panels. Neither of them were on the first day. I had them both on the second day. But I did a panel and so here's the thing, too, is I'm getting ready for my panels. And we get the note like, hey, Maria decided she would like to be on your panels. It would be cool. And she picked both of the ones I was on.
And I had her on one of mine.
Honored.
Yeah. Maria Simmons, if you don't know, worked with Robert Jordan when he was writing the books as his assistant. So she's an OG, absolutely has the inside track on a bunch of information that she cannot necessarily talk about.
Yeah. And she wanted to be on both the panels that I was on, so that was exciting. And one of them was, we did like a WOT IRL thing. My other panelists were great also. Shout outs to, what was it? Wolf Brother. Sorry, dude. Yep. Wolf Brother. There was Andrew from Black Tower Podcast. There was a Rosie / Ariel / Pavara Sadai. And, oh my God, who else am I forgetting? I feel bad. I'm sorry to the person I'm spacing. Editing a radio here to correct the record. It was Vance, Bard of the Red Hand. The other one we did was, crap, I'm not even remembering now. We did WOT IRL and, post-canon speculation. That one was really fun. You and I did a recording that was a recording. It was not very exciting, but our panels were amazing.
And this will be after that recording, correct?
Yes, this conversation is actually going to be appended to the recording, so you will have just heard us being at WoTCon, and now here we are a week and a half later, basically, talking about it. I'm going to put those together, and then we'll record chapters 1 and 2, and that will be a separate episode.
Yeah, and I was going to say, my Prophecies panel was great. It was Matt Hatch, Maria Simmons, and Dana. There is no Dana, only Zool.
Oh, yeah.
And me. So that was just a great panel to be on. Great list of names of people who know what they're talking about. The other thing that I got to do a lot of was I hung out with Kate Redding so much. That woman can party. I tell you what.
Oh my God, can she ever?
Can she ever? She tied one on, and there was probably 2 to 3 hours on Friday. Was it Friday night, where it was just like me and Kate Redding and like 1 or 2 other people hanging out. And I made ridiculously good friends with Kate Redding. I spent a little more time with Michael Kramer the next night. But, I mean, here's the story I'll tell.
Oh, everyone get out your popcorn. This is a good one.
Yeah. So Kate Redding she went to the bar earlier and left her credit card at the bar. And so, while we're hanging out at 2 a.m, she goes, "Oh my God, my credit card. I don't know where it is." So I go, okay, well, maybe it's behind the bar. Let's go look for it. And so I go to the bar. The bar's all closed down and shut down. And I'm shining my light, trying to find, is there a credit card left, somewhere on the thing, on the register? Is there somewhere? And I totally bump the glasses, and I knock down like 5-6 pint glasses and shatter them all. Just absolutely break them. And I go back and I'm like, okay, your card wasn't there, Kate. I'm so sorry. And she's like, well, what's wrong? She's like, clearly something's wrong. And I'm like, I can't believe I did this. I broke a bunch of glass behind the thing. And she's like, and I was like, I feel so bad. And she's like, well, let's go tell them. And I'm like, oh, she's like, well, just tell them that my credit card got abandoned and got really angry that it was by itself and decided to shatter all the glass. And so she made up this whole story. We walked over to the counter and told them, and the people behind the counter were absolutely like, oh, the glass is behind the bar, whatever. We'll clean it up later. We don't care. They really didn't seem to care. They were just happy that somebody was telling them about it. And they had actually had Kate Redding's credit card at the front desk.
Oh, they had collected it, and that's where it was anyway.
And that's where it was anyway.
So it wouldn't have been found as fast if you hadn't broken the glasses.
So they had, and so then later, the next day, she kept referencing, her credit card getting angry and breaking glasses and would track me down and be like, I love that story. Every time I pull out my credit card, I'm going to remember that story. And so, meanwhile, I'm just dying over here being like, oh my God, Kate Redding absolutely is going to remember me as the guy who broke glasses, and she made up a story to cover for it. So, it's just one of those, and she would try, the next day she'd do that thing where she'd call me over from across the room and be like, hey, Seth, and I'd walk over to her, which is absolutely having a celebrity do that. Celebrity,
to us,
yeah. I'm sort of dying with just absolute affection, and and she remembered us from SpoilerCon. She knows that we've raised.
She knows of us.
Knows of us. She knows how much money we've raised for Books to Prisoners. She remembers all that. So there was a little bit more connection there. Yeah, so that was fun. There was also apparently a story where they were giving out Legos as little thank you gifts.
The Bricks of Time thing. So I didn't get to spend as much time with Kate. Seth, you tried to introduce me to her, but it just didn't quite click. But yeah, she had lots of really good, strong one-on-one connections with many people, and I know that my turn will come up one of these years. But she had, she was talking with, I forget who.
Loyal's library is what Sherbert Mango was saying.
Loyal's library. Okay. I've heard this story from so many people, I wasn't sure who the OG person was.
Right.
Okay.
Same.
So Loyal's library. So there was this thing called Bricks of Time that, like, it didn't really make a lot of sense to a lot of people, but it was a Twitter joke about how we're all so oblivious you have to hit us in the face with a brick in order for us to know we have a crush, or you have a crush on us. Like, so it was all these Legos.
Flirting's not going to work. Yeah.
Exactly. None of us know how flirting works, which is true. And so there's all these bricks, and one of them was the cocktail crush for whatever reason. And someone gave this brick to Kate and, like, explains it very briefly because, like, she was, you know, drinking everyone under the table. And, like, to be clear, I am very short, and Kate Redding makes me look large.
Yeah, she's tiny,
like,
tiny lady.
She is the size of my great aunt. She is tiny, and she drank everyone under the table and stayed up until the last people went to bed at 5:30 in the morning for like 3 days running, or 2 days running. And
got
so
up to read the next day in front of everybody. Yeah.
She's amazing. And talking with people the whole time. So she gets this brick that's like a cocktail crush, and she goes to the bar and orders a cocktail and hands them this Lego.
Well, she thinks she can pay with the Lego, which is not at all what the hotel is.
It's not at all what the game was. It was not the arrangement. And the bartender just blinking at her like, what is this? And fortunately, someone from the con was, like, directly behind her and was witnessing this and understood what happened and was like, Kate, I'll get you your drink. But it was just the Legos misinterpreted by Kate to be currency for a drink. And I believe I witnessed her telling the story to the person it happened to, and the blushes for days, you know. Like, for days. I guess I can't remember who the face was, but I know that the blushes were for 10 Sunsets. To go with the Robert Jordan euphemism for that.
And here's what I'll say about Michael Kramer. You get some some whiskey into him, like, he will wax poetic about philosophy all night. Like, he had his, like, what looked like a little cult of followers. Like, he'd be sitting in his chair and people would be, like, laying on the floor around him.
He was pontificating.
Like a circle. Yeah, exactly.
I sat in the circle briefly for a while. It was nice.
It really, to me, felt like a cult leader. Like, Kate was, like, your best friend who you're hanging out with. Michael Kramer was, like, the cult leader who everybody was worshiping.
Yeah. The really interesting thing with Kate was that when she focused in on someone, like, no one else could get in. Like, when she decided she was talking to one person, like, it did not matter what was happening. All of her attention was on that person, and she was
very focused.
Completely focused on them. And I just felt so happy for every person who got that experience from her. It was just so nice to witness, even though it's like, oh, well, clearly it's not my turn because she is busy with someone else. Whereas Michael, yeah, the circle could kind of always expand to take in another person because he was just this wise fount of baritone wisdom, and it was just fabulous. I very much hope to spend more time in physical con space with them. Obviously, we will be getting them to come to SpoilerCon for time immemorial, but it's just not the same through
via Zoom. Yeah. But yeah, huge shout out to a bunch of the people who were there. You know, I don't even want to try and name all the people I connected with because I feel like there's no way I'd come close to even scratching the surface of all the people.
Did you see the thing that Kate wrote and put? I guess she put it on Facebook, so you wouldn't have seen it. She made a really long post from their, like, official thing and about how the con was and how amazing it was, and very much put us as the first labeled group in, like, just like, you know, from starting with Watch Spoilers, doing a read in 2018 and moving on to all this other stuff. We've, you know, collectively from this community have raised, you know, over $10,000 for Books to Prisoners. It was just this long, really heartfelt thing that really reflected how excellent their experience of the community was at the event. You know, they were not there as just talent that ran back to the green room and hid from us. They were embedded in the body of the con and had as much fun as any of the participants. And I'm very proud of the community for not, you know,
right,
being frustrating for them.
Yeah, I wish Daniel Green had spent more time interacting with folks. I saw him briefly once or twice at a couple of the big events, but, you know, I know he's got some social anxiety and he was less interactive. I feel like maybe people didn't get a chance to really get to know him, like, because I've seen him in other, like at Jordan Con, he's definitely done a little bit more socializing.
I didn't even see him around to talk to, but everyone else was very, very social. Like, this was, I am assuming that it's like this at all Wheel of Time events, but this is an event where I just feel like I can, if there's a spot at the table, I just can plop myself down and be like, hello, what are we talking about? And it's fabulous. I wouldn't do that normally. But in this community, it's like, it's simply a matter of seeing if there's a table with an open seat at it. Like, I just inserted myself into so many conversations and met cool people along the way and ran into people that I knew that I knew, but I didn't know them. And then there was the weird part, which is not normal for most people at cons, where people would come up to me randomly and be like, by the way, huge fan of the podcast. Love your work. Bye. And then they'd vanish back into the crowd.
Wait, what?
Like,
okay.
I should have given you a ribbon, a sticker. It was very surreal to have people hear my voice and come up and be like, hey, by the way, I know you from the podcast. And so those of you out there, you know who you are and you know what you did. And it was very trippy. And I'm sorry I didn't give you a ribbon.
It takes a little while to get used to that, I think. I'm not even sure I am used to it because there was a couple of people who said that to me and I was just like, okay, good. Yeah, that's great. Anyway, Wheel of Time.
Deflect.
Deflect, yeah.
It's so much fun to get to talk with people.
It was funny when they were doing trivia and you raised your hand and I think Matt Hatch was like, no, Aradia, that's not fair.
I couldn't help myself. I had to raise my hand and he's like, that's not fair. It's fun having a reputation to precede you. It is a very surreal experience that I enjoy very much.
I didn't get a chance to go to as many panels as I wanted to, mostly because I was on 2 of them, plus we did a live recording during one of them, and then I felt like a need to either prepare or recover instead of going directly to another panel.
Fair enough. I only went to one, so...
Exactly. Yeah, so that's the thing, is when you're on them, it's just, it's harder to go to them. But the attendance was really good. A lot of people were in the rooms. The rooms got full, I think, for a bunch of the panels. They did a good job of making the panels interesting, and, they were driving people to go to them.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And the food was acceptable.
I thought it was pretty good.
The lunch was,
the box lunches weren't great.
The lunch was a field camp lunch. The dinners were good unless you were vegan.
Yeah, that's fair.
I heard that the vegan offerings were
not great. Yeah.
Pathetic. Undercooked and no protein and do better. I was not cool enough to be a person suffering that fate, but I heard reports.
That unfortunately is, you're kind of at the mercy of the hotel. And what they decide to do. It's
embarrassing for them that that's what they thought an acceptable vegan dinner was.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons that we've stuck with food carts at SpoilerCon, because there's all those options out there, and they are actually quite delicious, and you're not stuck prepaying a bunch of money for the ticket, not knowing exactly what kind of food you're going to get. You can just go buy the food you want.
Yeah, for sure. But the arrangement that they made to have us all eating together was very, very cool.
It was nice.
Yeah. Nothing on the con. It was just wow, that is a disparity in quality. Dance party was fun. I didn't drink too much. I was very proud of myself for not drinking too much. I was of all the places to not have a hangover, this is it.
Right. Yeah, I think I drank a decent amount Friday night, but then I really only had a beer or 2 Saturday night. But also on Friday night, it was over the course of multiple hours, so I never really I had 6 or 7 beers, but over at least that many hours.
If you start at 2 in the afternoon, that's not a lot.
Yeah. The costumes were great.
Oh my god, the costumes! There were some really cool homemade things. There were some really elaborate true to show things. There were some people like me who just halfway got through their embroidery before they ran out of thread and then wore the half-finished garment anyway. It was beautiful. There was a lot of people in some really cool costumes. And some people came in multiple sets. I think there was one couple that had 2 or 3 paired sets of outfits, and it was just too cool.
Well, they're the ones who won, right? She won Fail.
Oh, that was, yes. It was, oh my God, it's too good. It was... She had a whole fan thing going, and there was also Mistress Leandrin, who was a dominatrix. That was fun. And
that was great.
On that costume were insane. Oh, and then there was the proposal.
That's right. Yeah, there was someone actually proposed to his girlfriend.
Was it actual proposal?
That was adorable. Everyone squeezed.
It was the body language, like I couldn't hear it, but the body language was like you could feel people all start reaching for their phones. And then as soon as he started to go down on one knee, there was just this collective whipping out of phones. Like, and then as soon as the box comes open, like just the room is a ear-shattering squee fest. Well, because
Matt got him up there and is he on some bullshit thing about they were playing poker together and he wanted to say something about poker. And then he was like, oh, by the way, can my girlfriend come up? And like, immediately I was like, proposal. Like, I don't know why. That's the first thing that came to my head. Is I was like, oh, wait, so he's not actually going up there. Yeah, this is a false thing. He's definitely proposing. And sure enough, she got up there and I was like, yeah, here we go. And it was actually, it was cute. It was really cute.
Oh. God,
and of course, never turned to me and said, don't you ever do that.
That is definitely you have to really know that that's going to be an okay thing. Right. Because that's an awkward place to potentially have that.
In front of, 300 people or whatever.
200. I heard that the actual head count was 200.
Okay.
I think ticket sales were much higher than that because there was a virtual option, which apparently went really well.
Oh, good. I
didn't, and you said that you actually did some of the streaming.
I did. Well,
of
I think the second day opening ceremony, again, I told you the first day I drank a fair amount. So the second day I stayed in bed and instead of going down to the lobby, I just literally streamed it on my phone in the hotel room. And that worked really well. And I was able to see and hear everything. That is something that I know JordanCon has failed at repeatedly. It's hard to get enough bandwidth. It's hard to get the right cameras. It's hard to get enough technology. But which is what you'd expect that from a con put on by a bunch of streamers, right? Like you'd expect that they get it down.
The technical prowess of the staff was off the charts. It was off the charts.
Everyone has figured this out on their own and, kind of knew what they were doing. The people running the panels knew how to start and stop a stream without, too much trouble. We know how to make sure the mics are on.
Bit of technical difficulties with knowing if I was going to get to have a PowerPoint or not.
Sure.
That was very touch and go because I kept being told yes, no, as the panel was starting. But it's year one. That is a minor fucking issue.
And that is also, again, it goes back to the hotel, I think, negotiating with what the hotel has available and what they tell you they can do versus what they're actually doing,
Yeah. Yeah, and I heard that the hotel was quite pleased with us. That was the rumor.
Yeah. We do a good job of cleaning up after ourselves and making sure that even though we're up late at night, we're not trashing the place or...
Well, some of us. No, you fessed up to it, which makes it different.
I did.
If you had not fessed up, then it would have been trashing the place. But if you fess up, then it's just you were checking gravity and things happen.
Right. No, I feel like I was out of all the people there, I probably created the most mess. Because I actually broke a lot of glass.
But at the same time, that's got to be one of the cheapest and most expendable items.
Pint glasses.
In the entirety of it's the hotel restaurant. I'm sure that they shatter more than that in a given day. I just met so many cool people. It was just so great. And I was glad that I spent an extra day, that I did stay the whole extra day. I think in hindsight, I would have rather taken a really late flight out instead of a really early flight the next morning.
Sure.
I think that would have been better, but whatever. It was really nice getting to stay the extra day and hang out with, do the couch con after situation because there was no end of good conversations to be had. I was glad to take your advice. I definitely feel like I went through that more like a pro than I had any right to because I had so much advice to work with. Conning on the shoulders of giants. And then as far as I know, both of us passed our con check on not getting con cred.
Yeah, I didn't, I would say that I was tired the week I came back and I had a bit of a scratchy throat. I tested negative for COVID twice. Did I get COVID and just have, pretty minor symptoms and not enough, viral load to test positive? Probably. But, I'm fine now. So it's hard to know if that's just all the talking and all the not sleeping and all the travel that gives you a sore throat, or it's possible that I got something else, and was feeling sick from, something that's not COVID related.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the event, we all had to be vaccinated, and there was an effort at making sure that masking was happening in the main panels and events. But let's be real, we were a bunch of very excited nerds wandering willy-nilly over a 3-day weekend. There was not a lot of not masking.
A lot of hugging, a lot of getting in groups, close talking. Yeah.
I may have been drunkenly singing "Weep for Manetheren" in the hotel lobby at one point.
Right.
There is a video of that on Twitter. I vaguely remember doing that. I have felt fine despite all the travel, despite all the talking, despite the lack of sleeping and eating. I haven't had a sore throat or any tiredness other than I need to stare at the wall for a week and do literally nothing.
Which is why we didn't record last week.
Right. And like I have tested obsessively for COVID with rapid tests. Like every other day I've done a rapid test and it has been negative every single time. And I'm still just like, there's no fucking way, because rumor is that a lot of people have tested positive for COVID. People have been chiming in on Twitter and places, I'm not violating privacy. It's just a lot of people have been saying that they've tested positive for COVID. And these are people I know I spent hours in close unmasked contact with, but I have no reason to think that I had any actual brush with COVID. So that's weird.
Yeah, to me, it's looking like around 10% of the attendees have tested positive and reported testing positive.
Yeah, I think that's about the impression I've gotten too, which is like, and no one has gotten particularly sick. There's been people who have been pretty knocked out for a couple of days, but like we're talking bad flu. Like as far as I know, nobody has been like, and now I regret existing.
Right. And I think again, that having everybody vaccinated.
Yeah, it helps a lot for sure. So it was so worth it, but I am anxiously anticipating having to be like, I'm not going to JordanCon because I want to go to WoTCon and I can do one of these this summer, and that's just what it is. And that's assuming that they don't schedule WoTCon for an event that I kind of really want to go to next summer that already has its date set. And
yeah,
I might have to choose between those, and then I guess I might go to JordanCon, but I don't know. It was a wonderful and overwhelming, and I was just overstimulated. It was just wonderfully overstimulating.
And you can control for that a little bit. There is going up to your hotel room and napping is something I did quite a bit. And that helps with the overstimulation.
It does. It's just vital.
And what's funny is we definitely saw each other, but not a whole lot of each other.
Yeah, no, we definitely crossed orbits very briefly.
Yeah.
We occasionally ate meals together.
For roommates. Yeah, we slept in the same room, but that was usually like one of us went to bed first and the other one came up later and was like, oh yeah, good night, crash.
Yeah, I actually ended up making a friend who came and stayed with me for a night at my house.
Oh, that's right. I saw pictures of that. That's right. Who was that?
Yeah, that was Vilmac. And we ended up at the same table eating multiple times and ended up talking about, I don't know what, but somehow the fact that I live near the Oregon coast came up. And he lives in San Francisco and was road tripping up to like Seattle or something like the following week and was planning on spending the night in Florence, just anywhere he could find a place to park a car. And Florence was not a ridiculous distance away from me, and my driveway was, less sketchy.
Yeah.
So, he came out and we stayed up too late talking, and then I made us all breakfast and he managed to get out the door off to Florence to go sandboarding or whatever.
Nice.
And I have no idea how his trip has gone from there. I should probably text him and follow up. But yeah, that was just like, not only did I make a really cool friend, I then got to see him like 3 days later. Like, hey, it's been so long.
Extended con trip. That sort of extends the con out a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit. The real problem for me with this con is it's giving me like really intense feelings about SpoilerCon. Because it's like, I know how much work that was. Like, I saw part of it from the inside. I can infer from my own experience making a con how much work it was. I know how much work it was. But I'm also like, we could do that. Like, there's no reason there couldn't be a West Coast thing. It just would require doing all of that work.
Yeah.
And like, I can't possibly see a way to do that. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to set myself up for that. But also, I know that the West Coast could absolutely rock having an event like that in the fall. Like, so it's just increased my amplitude of feelings about how conflicted I am, how I want SpoilerCon to grow, but not because I put more effort into it. It's just WoTCon has made me more appreciative of the fact that we are scaling down to something we can manage, but also regretful of how little we can realistically manage.
Yeah, I think that the talent to manage something like that is something that is it. I don't know how to say it other than to say, it feels like throwing a party and hoping that people show up, and I'm not sure how good I am at that sort of thing. In terms of like, having all the streamers, having all the, one of the things they were able to do is they got content creators to show up. And that then drove a lot of the other people to show up as well.
They had a really good marketing team also, which it's just the number of hats that have to be worn by extremely competent people to make that go. Like, I was on the barest fringes periphery of the planning. Like, I witnessed the giants doing their stuff off in the distance. And that was a lot of people. And I know that Nablus ended up, carrying 90% of things that he said he wasn't going to carry because apparently he's not good at holding true to delegation. But, it also worked. He's the kind of person who can do that. And it's like, we are being realistic about what we can do. But like, if we had an army of people who wanted to do that, like, I just need an army of people who want to do that. But like, that's more human coordination than I am capable of. I am not enjoying my brief stint as a leader in this con creation business. I do not want to try to get that kind of a team together because I'm just in awe. I'm just in open-mouthed awe. This was their first year.
Yeah.
Like, So, very impressed, very excited that it went so well. Very pleased that the community has this thing that happened, and also just pouting over my mere mortality and limited resources. Happy to go to this con instead of making it happen myself.
Yeah.
We will be having a con.
We will be having a con.
It will just be the tiniest slice of couch.
It's the couch con
aspects.
part of it, yeah. And I think we'll have enthusiastic participation by Kate and Michael. I think there's a bunch of, people who have really enjoyed being part of it in the past.
Yeah, and people from WoTCon who have bought tickets to SpoilerCon since the end of the con. Like, I've seen the emails come in. I know some of you are coming. It's going to be great. But yeah, we are food carts, Powell's, and a Zoom call from Michael and Kate. That is the extent of our ambitions. And hopefully my vest that I wore at WoTCon will be finished and I will have a more nifty outfit. I guess you can look forward to that as an event. My vest will be done.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or
support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?